Welcome everybody, this is the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Development Call. This is the bi-weekly call happening on every Thursday, 7 a.m. Pacific time. And we have the kind of a sister call happening bi-weekly as well. So every single week on Thursday, 7 a.m. Pacific time, we either have this one or Viva Connection and SharePoint Framework call. So you're welcome to join on both of them, depending on your interest. But of course, whatever, we all have our other things to do as well, so it's understandable if you can't make all of the calls. Now, my name is Vesa Juvonen. I'm a programmer. I always need to think about it. I'm a product manager in the Microsoft 365 platform areas. They keep on changing the titles, but I work with the partners and ecosystem, open source, and the community stuff, and that's not going to change in the future. Now, today we're going to do a typical round-off and slide updates related on the community, some of the recurrent slides, because we want to make sure that also the new community members are up to date on all of the assets and resources. Then we'll go through the typical set of projects, and so what's happening in the PnP.NET libraries, PnP PowerShell, Yo Teams, Microsoft Graph Toolkit, and independent PubSec connectors. We'll, by the way, also soon, we'll start this next time because we should have started this already, but we kind of missed it. We'll have the Microsoft Teams Toolkit update in this call as well. So just making sure that we are covering all of the cool stuff what we're doing, which are open source, either from Microsoft or driven by the community. Then we'll call out all of the latest grid samples, Microsoft Teams samples, and Power Platform samples, so quick updates on those. And then we'll have to get a picture. So if you're willing to enable, you want to be part of the picture, you can put the video on, and we'll craft a GIF animation out of that, which then goes to social media like Twitter and LinkedIn, and typically in a blog post as well. Today, the real stars are Louisa Fries and Lee Ford and Marcus Miller. So there's going to be two demos both of them related on Microsoft Teams development, and both of them super cool demos, which I'm looking forward to happen soon. Now, before we go to the actual project level updates, there are different opportunities of joining the community. We do welcome community demos. Those would be great to have. So if you have built something cool, it doesn't have to be necessarily open source. It doesn't have to be submitted as a pull request to our repos, but something what you can show and explain a pattern or a learning which you've done as part of implementing something. We do not welcome product demos because there's a separate, obviously, we rather want to keep this as a community presenting for community. But if there's a cool things what you can show, please reach out and volunteer for doing the demos. You can contribute in a GitHub in the different GitHub projects and samples, and the most important thing is to provide feedback. So if something works, something doesn't work, please let us know so we're able to address this. We, as in the Microsoft, we are building these offerings and products for you. So we need to understand what works, what doesn't work as well. And word of a warning also, remember that also positive feedback is a good thing, especially for the open source project coordinators and all of that. They would love to have positive feedback and acknowledgement for their contributions for the community as well. Now, another slide which we typically have in the course as well. So we do have two different YouTube channels. We have the official Microsoft 365 developer videos channels and the community video channels. All of the recordings of the community course are in the community video channel, together with all of our community demos, and the official videos then on the developer video channel. We have a lot of open source assets, a lot of samples, and all of these URLs are available from aka.ms /m365/community, from where you can also find our blog and a lot of additional assets related on Microsoft 365 development. We also have a lot of different community calls. So we have a Tuesday call happening every single week, 8 a.m. Pacific time. This is Microsoft PMs, Cloud Advocates, developers presenting for you. So it's a really great opportunity of staying up to date, what's happening within the Microsoft 365 platform areas. Then we have monthly calls, Adaptive Cards, Microsoft Identity Platform, Office Add-ins, and Power Platform calls, which are great monthly calls happening once a month on a specific topics. And then we have the Thursday, 7 a.m. Pacific series, which is either the Microsoft 365 Power Platform development call, which is this one, or the Viva Connection and SharePoint Framework call happening every other week. So that cycles on Thursday morning on Pacific time. Well, it's afternoon in my time, but Pacific time, Thursday morning. Anyway, time zones are so hard. Now, on next week on the platform call, we have 3 different demos. So this is on the 4th of October. It is already second fourth quarter of the year, which is pretty cool. Time flies when you're having fun. We'll have 3 different demos. Brian Jaggett and Cameron Parker are going to talk about introduction on privacy APIs in the Microsoft Graph. Then Carrie Trinder is going to show us how to build your first notification bot using Microsoft Teams with Teams Toolkit. And then Bob German and Adaya Shalabaya are going to talk about account linking for Microsoft apps. So really, really cool demos on next Tuesday's call. So if you're interested and if you can join, you can absolutely join on the live call. If nothing else, pick up the recording and then check the what was covered in the call. Now, we also have, as we talked about the samples and contributions, you might not be super familiar on how to get started on contributing. That's why we have our Sharing is Caring initiative. And this is really led by numerous community members, which are partly Microsoft people and partly community people, so like MVPs, where we want you to teach you how to get started on doing things or learn to contribute or learn to speak and help you there in a reliable way and in a safe way. And none of these sessions are being recorded, so there's no fear of feeling bad about getting recorded and then seeing that in a YouTube or where else. So they are safe sessions to learn and have those questions to get started. Now, the one thing which is getting scheduled pretty soon is the Power Platform Samples Contributor session, and there will be other sessions in the pipeline as well. The team has been really busy because of the conference season, so we'll have new dates for many of these things scheduled quite soon in the pipeline. Now, as you then start contributing, hopefully in the community, either by samples or a documentation updates or contributing in other ways, or doing maybe community call demos, we want to actually recognize you on those contributions. So we have the PnP recognition program, where we use the Credly, which is the same Credly what Microsoft uses, Microsoft certifications. So you can actually get official Credly badges, electric badges for your profile, and then you can share those in the social media and in LinkedIn and so on. And we have a lot of different badges. We're looking into more different levels and more different badges of acknowledging your contributions for the community pretty soon as well. If you have already contributed, so we contributed on docs, samples, done a community call demo or something else, but you have not yet received your stamp, please sign up for the program. So you will need to opt in by going aka.ms M365 PnP and recognition. Basically provide your email address where we can pinpoint where we can send the badge. Now, let's then go to the individual project-specific updates, what's happening. So first of all, we'll start with a PnP.NET libraries, and I think Bert is on the call to talk about that one.
Yes, thank you, Vesa. So for the PnP.NET libraries, we have 2 libraries, PnP Framework, let's call it the legacy older one, although it's not legacy, it's the older one, and PnP Core SDK is the newer one. For PnP Core SDK, I think one of the new features is rate limit header support. So we introduced new throttling capability features, where that if you use app-only authentication to SharePoint APIs, being Graph, REST, or CSOM, doesn't really matter which one, you'll get a rate limit header back saying like, hey, you actually used so many requests of your quota. You're about to get throttled. And with this rate limit headers, you can then back off and avoid getting throttled, which will give you like an overall better throughput compared to getting throttled and having to wait for a long time to get unblocked again. So support is in, it's turned off by default. You have to turn it on, and documentation is still coming. But if you want, you can check it out, and more samples will come on that area as well, outside of Core SDK, just plain samples, so everyone can really start using those. Koen Somers did work on resource behavior options, so you can when you create a group using PnP Core SDK, like a modern team site, you can then say like this group will appear in Outlook or not. So there's a set of options you can set, still to be merged, which will happen normally today. On the PnP framework side, the main work is the provisioning schema. Paulo and Paul and others have been really busy defining the schema and then implementing the features. So that will be also, I think I've heard that it's almost done. So once they're done, they will be merged in the dev branch and you guys can try them out. I think that kind of then sums it up.
I have to say 170,000 tenants in a month is just, wow, that's a lot of tenants. And that's a lot of customers using that component set. So, but 30,000 tenants in PnP PowerShell as well, which is really, really cool. So what's the new in there, Crowdon?
Yep. Thanks, Vesa. So PnP PowerShell is a module that you can use to PowerShell module that you can use to connect to SharePoint Online, Graph, Teams, Planner, security and compliance, purview, and lots more stuff. It works on PowerShell 5, PowerShell 7, Azure Cloud Shell, Azure Functions, Azure Runbooks, and even Raspberry Pi. And it is also cross-platform, so it will work on Linux and Macs as well, besides Windows. So what's new in PnP PowerShell? We added a command, get PnP Azure AD active report directory audit that will help you get the audit logs from the Azure Active Directory. What we are working on is managed identity support. So right now, managed identity support is a bit limited for restricted only to the Graph endpoints, but we are working on making it available to SharePoint endpoints as well. So working on that. Besides that, bug fixes and general improvements continue. We are also working on the .NET 6.0 support. So yeah, that work is also going on in progress. There is a PnP PowerShell extension that is available in the Visual Studio Marketplace. So do check it out. I'll paste the link here as well inside the chat as well. Besides that, yeah, would love to hear your thoughts on PnP PowerShell, what you want, what you would like to improve, or what you would like to see in the future. So yeah, feel free to chime in into the issue list or open an issue in the issue list or open a discussion in the discussion forums as well. So yeah, thank you. Over to you, Vesa.
Do you actually need any improvements anymore? It's perfect. It's just the best as it is. So
no.
Now let's move to the Yo Teams, and Stefan Bisser is here to talk about Yo Teams and the latest development there.
Thank you, Vesa. Yeah, we unfortunately don't have a latest release because we're still certainly discussing how we can improve Yo Teams. We're in the process of aligning GitHub branches a little bit, aligning the build pipelines a little bit. We're still discussing what we should do next, and we'd like to have your thoughts on that. So if you feel you have any feature you're missing in your teams, or if you have an issue, please feel free to add that to the issue list or to the discussion board on GitHub. We're right now talking about if we should add a VS Code extension for your teams as well as bring in some functionality like add single sign-on for Teams apps during scaffolding, the option to integrate Microsoft Graph Toolkit, and yeah, some minor changes and some things like documentation updates and tutorials and stuff like that. But apart from that, we're really looking forward to bring another release in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned. And as said, if you have anything, feel free to chime in. Up to Seb, I guess.
Yep, thank you, Stefan, on that one. And then we'll go to the Graph Toolkit. Sebastian Levert, good to have you back from the break. Did you have a time to get some rest?
I did not.
That's what I thought.
What's new with the Graph Toolkit? We released at the end of August our version 2.6.1, which includes a bunch of updates to our MGT people picker and our MGT person cards. We also had a really cool community contribution from Hilton Gissenau around renaming our SPFX packages. Right now it was a little bit confusing, a little bit cryptic. So now we have a beautiful name of the SPFX package, and also we have the version embedded in there. So it means that when we're going to come out with our version 3, we will be able to support both installed at the same time on the same tenant. So that's really, really cool. Great improvement for SharePoint Framework users leveraging the Microsoft Graph Toolkit. Aicha also did a really cool new full Microsoft Learn tutorial around building a productivity hub with the Graph Toolkit. So now we have it as a tutorial in our documentation. If you want to learn about the toolkit and get something running really, really quickly, I think that's one of your best options. We still have our MGT samples repository. So if you have a sample you're building with MGT and you want to share some of the work you've been doing, aka.ms/mgt/samples, we're more than happy to accept your contribution. What's next? We're working a lot to align our toolkit with the latest Fluent UI capabilities. We're going to come out with a version 3 in the next couple of, I would say, weeks to a couple of months. If you want to do and have a tryout and see how this will look like, you can always install our next branch, our next Fluent UI branch, to see where we're at. You're more than welcome to provide feedback with this. Back to you, Vesa.
Excellent. Thank you, Seb. And as I said, great to have you back on the crew as well. But you had a really, really good reasons today away, and I appreciate taking that time off.
Awesome.
Having a new baby and all of that for those who do not know. Now, and then we'll go to Jocelyn related on updates on the independent publisher connectors.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me. We have some great updates going on. We are now at 60 awesome independent publishers, including a couple of new ones. For those of you who don't know, there's actually a Students Connector Hackathon series going on right now, which has brought the names above listed as new independent publishers in our program, which is super exciting. That also brings 173 connectors from the independent publisher to the total. We also have 2 new independent publisher connector updates from some of our existing publishers, Troy and Roy. We also have 4 new connectors as well, which include Compass, Fantasy Premier League, You Need a Budget, and Proposal for Open Trivia DB. For those of you here who are independent publishers but have not gotten a chance to speak with me yet, I'm going to put some of my socials in the chat. I would love to hear more about your experiences. And for those of you who are interested, please reach out to me as well. We need your help in the program. There is a link about Top Connector Asks. You can also go and find more information about the existing connectors online as well, in case you're looking to add some updates. Thank you so much for your involvement.
Excellent. Thank you, Jocelyn, on that one. And then we'll move to Paul Pollack. A lot of slides to cover, but so many cool updates and assets available. Paul, what's up in the script sample side?
Yeah, hi, Vesa. Script Samples is a repository for storing your PowerShell or Bash scripts to interact with the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. So we use a variety or support a variety of script tools types. So, for example, from the Microsoft Graph, PowerShell SDK, CLI for Microsoft 365, PnP PowerShell, and so forth. And I can add more if they're not on the list, if you've got a different type of script that you want to share with the community. This is also integrated within the Unified Solution Gallery for that additional exposure as well, which is super, super cool. We've got a few new awesome samples here. So we've got a new one from Todd Clint about getting all files for document library, along with created and modified by dates, which is super cool. Create quick links web part, which is defined by data source by Casper Larson. We've got add a content type hub with Canada format field by Andre Lenage. And we've got a new Graph PowerShell SDK script, so get users by license and review by myself, which is super, super cool. Did you know that if you wanted to search by commandlet, so if you've got a command and you want to see what scripts relate to that, or you want an example of its usage, then you can search for that as well. And we also have ways to contribute. So we've got a contribution link in the script samples site as well to give you all those instructions, or by all means, reach out to myself on Twitter. There's my handle at PKBullock. I'm open to DMs. If you need any help, get going, by all means, just reach out. We're also labeled up for Hacktoberfest, which is starting very shortly. So you need 4 pull requests, and again, no spammy ones. They've added a few more rules on here. So I'm more than happy to support your samples as they come in as part of that program. Back to you, Vesa.
Excellent. Thank you for that one. And I do apologize. I need to learn to use the PowerPoint Live. I saw the comments on there. Yes, I'm an old school person. Yes. But it hasn't been super 100% reliable. So I always trust on the screen sharing. I do apologize on that. Now, good point on the links because they work in the PowerPoint Live on the chat. Now, we also have new updates on the Microsoft Teams samples. So Marcus Muller, who's going to do a demo today, has contributed already a following sample or quite a few following samples. So thank you, Marcus, on that. So there's a really, really cool sample available on the mail storage and saving in the mail in a centralized location. We'll probably get that one scheduled with Marcus at some point sooner or later. Hopefully, we'll get that one covered as well. We do welcome samples on the Microsoft Teams samples as well, because samples is the easiest way to learn how to extend the platform. And so you are more than welcome to share those. On the Power Platform sample side, I think, April, you want to say a few words here, unless I'm completely mistaken.
Yep.
Excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Vesa. Yeah, so we don't have any new samples this time. However, at the Power Platform Conference, we had our Sharing is Caring Power Platform Samples First Time Contributor session live and had several people do their first pull requests. So that was a really great to have that live and in person. And as Vesa mentioned earlier, we've been busy with the conference, but now that is behind us, we're going to be working on scheduling some new contributors sessions for Power Platform samples as well. So we welcome your samples. Be sure to keep a lookout on the Sharing is Caring site there to see the new sessions as they're scheduled. And we hope to see your samples. Back to you, Vesa.
Excellent. And then we'll go to the actual Together Mode picture today. So for those who are willing to do this, let's put a video on. I will share my screen here. I will start my Camtasia. Let's all be in that auditorium today. And let's put in there. We have 50 seats in the room. And I will put the recording on. Let's wait for a while until we are 50 seats. You can see Seb on the background is showing how this is done. Everybody, let's try to align on Seb's. Which one is left? Which one is right? That's Now we're recording, and here we go. So let's do some hand waving. Everybody, thank you for joining. Awesome to have you in the call. It almost feels like a real world that we're sitting in the same room. This is really, really cool. We will get back to the in-person conferences even more on top of last week's Orlando. But thanks everybody for joining. Awesome to see you in the house. Now, then it's actually time for the real stars of today, who are Lee Ford and Louisa Fries, and then we'll have Marcus Müller following them. Take it away.
Okay, thank you. So today I will be talking first. Lee will join later.
I will drive 1 second. There you go.
Okay, very, very good. So this is a presentation about a good vibes generator for Microsoft Teams. Very, very shortly about myself and Lee. I'm Louisa Fraser. I'm an M365 and Power Platform consultant from Germany. I'm an MVP for M365 development and business applications. If you want to, you can find my blog at m365princess.com, and please also do follow me on Twitter.
Okay, and my name's Lee Ford. I'm a solution architect for a company called Simity in the UK. I mainly work in Teams app development, but it also sort of bleeds into other parts of Microsoft 365. I blog at lee-ford.co.uk, and you can follow me on Twitter at lee_Ford.
Okay, what time is it? I think it's demo time, so.
I went a bit early, sorry.
Yeah, a little bit early. That's what you said.
Yeah. Okay, so here we go. Right, I'll zoom in a bit.
Okay, so we generated a good vibes generator. So purpose of that is to send positive affirmations on a schedule and whenever needed to people in the workplace, so where they actually work, which is of course in Teams. So we will trigger our bot right now.
Okay, yep. So I'm going to trigger it through in Azure, but we can also trigger it in Teams. So I'm just going to here. Let's just do a run, make sure it actually works. We think about it. Oh God, that doesn't look good.
So we can do this also just like from Teams, so just like sending any message to that bot, and it will return a very, very nice message as an adaptive card.
To accepted, I think. So we should hopefully be getting a message at some point.
That would be nice. So last one, right before the call, it worked. Hey, that saucy personality should be taught in school. You feel me? So that is the kind of vibe that we wanted to give our people in the workspace, which of course is a very, very cool thing. And we would love to show how we accomplish that. So how are we doing this, Lee?
Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay, yeah. Yep, so that one's come through.
Yeah, so
right.
Ace, your life's journey rolls like a line, you hidden gem. So whenever you agree with that, please just like send a message right now to the chat because we want to know. Okay, so when we tried to build that, we had just like several design goals, and I think we have a slide for that as well. So first of our design goals was we wanted to be secretless as much as possible. So I hate to deal with secrets because it's always like rotation is an issue, storing is an issue. It expires the day you want to demo it. That is an issue as well. So we wanted to go as secretless as possible. Second thing is we wanted to be serverless because I don't want to host that myself. So you can imagine that we're just like super, super big fans of Azure Functions, which means that if we don't use it a lot, it will not cost a fortune or almost nothing, which is very, very cool. And third design goal was to be open source because we believe in community. And if you want to contribute to this bot, you can absolutely do this as well. Okay, so what is the architecture, Lee?
Yeah, so the architecture is 100% hosted in Azure. Sort of the main component is Azure Functions. So that's where the application logic is stored. That's where when we send out a message, it comes from Azure Functions. When the bot gets triggered, it goes into Azure Functions. So that's the main sort of component. And what you'll notice here is we do have a couple of managed identities. And like we said, one of the sort of key design goals was having no secrets. So we're using managed identity in two ways. We're using the user assigned one to communicate with the bot. So we're not using any client secrets or anything like that. And similarly with Cosmos DB for database storage and for the storage account, which is required for the Azure function to run, again, using managed identity from the Azure function to those components. And finally,
Exactly.
the key vault is there as a backup for things that we can't really store as in managed identity, things like URIs and tenant IDs and things like that.
Yeah, so for everyone who is not super familiar with what is a managed identity, usually you would need to have an app registration, and that app registration comes with a secret, and then you have that problem to handle that secret. And all of that is abstracted away from you if you use a managed identity, because then Microsoft cares about that, and the secret is not even exposed to you nor to your developers. So there is no way where you can just like know that secret and need to handle this on your own, which is just like a perfect use case for that.
Mm-hmm. So I think now if we go back to the Azure portal, we can quickly go through just the sort of the basic construct of the application. So
show me some code. I want to see the Azure functions.
You want to see the Azure functions? Okay.
We want to see the Azure functions.
Yeah. So let's go into VS Code. So we have two main entry points for the bot to work to be able to get a good vibe. So the first one is where we the Microsoft bot is listening on messages coming from Teams users, and then it triggers this Azure function, and this Azure function effectively creates a good vibe bot, and the bot is then run. If I just show you the bot code, essentially we have on message. So when we receive a message from the Teams user, we store the conversation reference. And the reason we store conversation reference is that when we want to send out messages sort of scheduled, we have a conversation reference, i.e. we know where to send it to. It's not just an email address, it's an ID and a name and a few other bits. So we store that in Cosmos DB, and then we get a vibe. So if I just quickly show what we mean by getting a vibe, we have a list of phrases. So we have and effectively we combine them to generate a good vibe. And once we've created a good vibe, we send it on an adaptive card out to the user. And then the final bit in here is on a member's added. So when a member is added or the bot is added to a person's chat, we send a welcome message to say, hey, we're the Good Vibes bot, send us a message and we'll send you a good vibe, that sort of thing. So that's one type of interaction. And then the other interaction is, which is what I showed you earlier, where we trigger the bot to run on a scheduled interval. Obviously, I manually run it that time, but that's where we're using durable function, which means we can use it at scale, or we can kind of send out 1,000 messages rather than sending one message at a time. We can kind of sort of scale out. And what we're doing here is
we wanted to just like send thousands of messages.
Yes, exactly right. Yeah. So obviously in our scenario, it's a couple of us. But if this is rolled out to an organization, in theory, anyone could interact with the bot, and all of a sudden we have 1,000 people wanting good vibes every day, then it's kind of built ready for that. So similar to the way it worked before, we're getting the conversations which we stored in the previous method where we communicate with the bot for the first time. We generate a good vibe for each conversation, and then we send that good vibe for each conversation using the bot framework.
So the interesting thing is we randomize all these phrases. So we have 4 kinds of phrases. First, we have just like a greeting phrase, which is something. We have a slide for that, exactly.
We have a slide for that, yeah.
We have a slide for everything, yeah. So first is a greeting phrase like "Hi" or "Listen up," so just like to have a nice hook for our new conversation. Second part of that is we want to address a personal trait or something about your personality, just like, hey, your hair, your personality. So something about the person that we want to send the affirmation to. Third part is the compliment itself. So the nice thing that we want to say about us, like, is awesome or absolutely rules the world, something like that. So the actual it should be a teachable skill, because I believe everything is a teachable skill. And then we end with something, we end the vibe with, and that's just a fact, and we we close this vibe again. And what we did is, so we store all these phrases in Cosmos DB, and then we randomize that so that we can just like have a lot of different vibes, even if we have just like a limited set of phrases, but they're just like, a lot of just like combinations possible, so that it does not feel always the same for our users, even if they get more and more and more of these vibes, because they can trigger the bot by just like texting to it in Teams, or it runs on a schedule, and we have a Cronus job in place. For us, it's now at 12 p.m. every single day, but you can do whatever you like with that.
Absolutely. Okay. And from
next thing, we still need to show the adaptive card, because that is how this then arrives in Teams, right? We wanted to send this as an adaptive card, and of course the adaptive card has some minor code as well. So this is just like super easy, because we only send the Git vibe and then a footer which says "made with love" by working on it. So you can get that as well and customize this message, of course. And then it arrives in Teams, and our user is happy. To make you now happy, we of course support you with deploying this Good Vibes generator. So if you feel like, hey, this is something that I want to try out as well, or maybe you do not want to send Good Vibes, but anything else that can be just like stand on a schedule, or just like by triggering something, and you would think, hey, I can reuse that architecture. We have something in place. So we have a PowerShell script that then deploys everything for you. We use infrastructure as code with Bicep, because less squiggly brackets. I really appreciate that. So this is the way how to do this. Also, it's the it's the nerdiest dad joke in the world, just like from ARM templates, the Bicep. And I really like that. There is a zip file still that you will need to unpack. This is because sometimes it can be really, really slow when you have this cold start in the very beginning. So we provide you with some files to make that easier. And last but not least, we of course have a Teams app package, because otherwise it would be a Teams application. So we provide you with that as well. And all of that, of course, is available on GitHub. We will submit a PR. Right now, it's on github.com/working-on-it/gitvibes-generator. And we hope that you can just like contribute to that as well, or find more use cases and find this valuable. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Luisa. Really, really cool stuff, and great to see. Great to see Good Vibes. That's always really good. So the positivity is the engine of the world to keep us moving. So thank you for that. Really, really cool stuff. Let's then move on. Marcus Müller.
Yes. Hello.
Hello. Hello. Good to hear you again.
Screen. Okay, today I wanted to show you originally only a Teams meeting app using the stage view. The sample then got a bit more complex and a bit more approaching real-time collaboration. So nevertheless, it's still a Teams meeting app using the stage view, but also using some real-time collaboration capabilities based on Fluid Framework and so on. So practical scenario is, let's vote for some movies. We can check and then watch the most favorite one together in stage view. Short intro about me, who doesn't know me. My name is Marcus Müller. I'm Microsoft 365 developer expert working for Avanade in Germany. I'm based in Munich, so close to the Oktoberfest, but not really live there, as said in the chat. So I'm a Microsoft MVP for M365 development, and if you need to get in contact with me, you can follow me on Twitter or check my blog, where I also wrote about this sample, but I will share the resources at the end as usual during my demos. So maybe let's directly jump into the demo, because I like to start with the demo and later explain how I did it. What we need is, of course, before we establish a Teams meeting app, we need a Teams meeting. What we always need as well, otherwise we could not really join the meeting and also not install a meeting app, is we always need at least one participant. I have my demo buddy here, which I always invite for those cases. And once we have that, we can also edit the meeting. We can edit the meeting and add an app. We need to search for the right now, which is the fluid one. Yeah, that's that one. This app we need to configure first, because we need 3 URLs for our movies, which we want to vote on. And what we can also do, not at this point of time, or at this point of time, it does not make sense, but maybe it comes to the place that you might change such a movie or exchange one and might reset existing votings. We can also do that, but I will explain this later. This is what this toggle button is. Once we save this, the app will already run and will render our picked videos. But this is only for demo purposes, because this, in a production scenario, this app would more intend to work live during a meeting, and therefore we do not use this so-called pre-meeting experience really. But we can also join the meeting. Do not really need a microphone here. And once we are here, you see our app. Yeah. This is our custom app. We can click it, and then we have the app in the so-called in-meeting experience. This is the same like when you see your chat or when you see the people attending the meeting on the right side. And what I can do now here is I will scroll a bit down. Of course, we can check the videos first, just that you get an impression what I have here. This was some from my former hobby in the wildlife. Let's vote for one. And what happens now immediately is we see at the very bottom, here is we have one vote, and I also cannot vote anymore because I'm recognizing, hey, this person already voted. Yeah. To show this once again, we can use another user, and this was our buddy Klaus Clausen. He's now the same invitation. I don't care for a response now. I will directly join the meeting. And now I see a totally different Teams bar. The Teams bar here below is totally different. When you see the leave button, here it's still a hang up and it's a leave. And here we also do not see any custom app. Yeah, and this is a problem because these capabilities around Teams meeting apps are still in preview. And they only support if you have enabled, for instance, the developer preview on the user. And this is what I cannot do with this regular user because this is not an admin user. But just to increase the votings for demo purposes, the cool thing is that I have this app, as you have seen, already enabled also in the pre-meeting experience. Yeah, in a productive scenario, once again, you would not do this, but here, let's simply vote for the video number 1 as well. And once we go back, we directly have a second vote here. Well, this is directly synchronized. I will explain you later how this works. And the final thing now, assuming we have several participants and they all voted and then there's a result, an organizer could also share in stage view. But when we click on this share button here, nothing happens. Once again, problematic. We are in preview, and this scenario is not yet supported in the web client. And therefore, to show you how this works, I had to prepare another physical Teams client. And therefore, I had to steal the laptop of my wife because my personal productive Teams client is already blocked because this is what I'm using productive and where I'm speaking to you. And therefore, therefore I used this second laptop and I approached this with remote desktop. And once I joined the meeting here, I have the app once again. I cannot vote, because I still recognizing I already voted. And here I can also share. And he, of course, recognizes the first video was chosen because it has 2 votes, the other have none. And this is how we can watch the video together. What you also see in the video here, I have no controls on the video, like play, pause, or something like that. And this is on purpose for the moment, because the apps, although they are shared, they have individual runtimes per user. So one user could run the whole video, and the other one could press pause in the meantime. And this would not affect the other users. And I want to have the video run in sync for all the users. This is why I removed the controls. But there's another option, but I will come to that later. But this was my demo for the moment. And now let's get back to the slides and explain you how I did. We have some prerequisites. I already explained that during the demo. We need a meeting, at least 1 participant. We need a physical Teams desktop client for the full functionality. And with physical, I mean, really, you need it on a machine. No virtual desktop or something like that. You need a physical one still. It got a bit better from my last demo. I think it was 1 year ago when I was demoing only the in-meeting experience. Some of you might remember when I was recording names and playing them back with audio. This is already possible, the in-meeting experience, at least for developer preview, as you have seen, but not the stage view. And the client developer preview needs to be enabled. The small icon here shows you how you can see it. It's a small P above your account photo. Then you need, of course, a Teams tab application with a specific manifest. We will see the details on the next slide. And last but not least, one of the biggest challenges here in this special app was the app needs to be in sync, especially on the votings and also maybe on the video running. And the synchronization of the votings, of course, needs to be implemented. But at the moment, this is really, really easy with Fluid Framework. But first, let me explain you some specifics of the Teams manifest. We need a scope. That's a group chat, because every meeting has a group chat. And this is what's also in combination with. And for the context, we need at least the meeting side panel and the meeting stage. I also used the chat and details tab, and this was the so-called pre-meeting experience. That is what I used for the workaround, that my normal buddy user could also vote with his web client. But this is only the exception here. The next thing is the app always runs with more or less the same endpoint. May it be in stage view or in the in-meeting or pre-meeting experience. And how to distinct that? This can be done from the page context. There you have a so-called frame context. And if this is meeting stage, we know, hey, we are already in stage view. And this is what I'm doing here. I'm checking if we are already in stage view or not. And if so, I will render either the vote movie fluid result component Yeah, which was the last one you've seen. This is the one with only one single winner video, or the other component which you have seen on the side panel or in the pre-meeting one is the Vote Movie Fluid voting component. This was showing all three videos and also maybe a button and so on and so forth. The next thing is about sync the votings. How you would have done that in the past would be maybe with a backend service, a database list or cache, whatever. Yeah, and then set a timeout and poll every 5 seconds or 1 second or so. Hey, did someone else vote? Do I have to increase my values or not? Yeah, but this is old school. A bit provocating, but the new Microsoft Fluid framework, and especially in combination with the recently went GA, I think at the beginning of August, Azure Fluid Relay Service is much more easy to implement. What you can see here, you simply have to set up an Azure resource called Fluid Relay Service, give it a name, put it to a subscription and so on, yeah, like you typically do with Azure components, and that's it. And then on this component, with your code, you can store containers. And all these containers might be meeting specific and store the data per meeting. How does this look like in code? In code, we have to create a container. That's quite simple. We need an Azure client and establish a connection and then create a container with a schema. The schema shows which data put in. And the data you can see here in the middle. What we are doing here is the most popular, you have so-called shared objects, and the most popular one is a shared map. Shared map you can think about as a .NET developer as a bit like a dictionary. Yeah? And you can see this also when I initialize my values in the next lines here. Yeah, so I'm initializing 3 votes to 0, and I also initialize a string with all my voted users to none, to blank. This is my data object, in which I reuse all over the scenario. And this is what I'm doing at the moment when I configure my application first time, or when I decide to reconfigure it and reset the votings. Then I will do it the same again. To sync the votings, you only have to do it in the front end. You do not really need to care for the backend. Let's concentrate first on the two portions of code on the left side, because in our very parent component, we once established access to our container and with it to our shared map object. And this shared map object, we can simply hand over to any child component in our more or less complex React structure and have it there. This is what we need to do first. And second is how the voting and the sync with the other client works. At first, a user in any client presses the button vote. And then we will increase the value in the map by 1. So the second thing is we already have an event receiver established on our voting map. And once in any client, yeah, assume we have 100 participants, in any client, a value change, we will fire that event receiver. And in that case, what we will do is we will get all our values and put it to our state, and the state components then will render the new values. And this is what you have seen in the demo. Once one user or the second user voted, I was immediately switching back, and the first user had already the values. And that's it. You do not have to care for the backend. Fluid Framework totally handles this for you. But it could even go more easy. And therefore, let me only give a short outlook. My current demo does not reflect this yet. But in the meantime, what's also coming out was the Teams Live Share SDK. And this is even more easy. There, optionally, you do not really need to care for the Azure Fluid Relay service. You automatically get one with your Teams meeting. Yeah, the disadvantage is the data storage is only 24 hours. So if you have enterprise needs like, hey, we need to archive all our meeting voting results for the last decade or so, then you would have to handle it yourself. But otherwise, if it's only running during your meeting, this could be even easier. And the second capability of the Teams Live Share SDK is also you can put some media like audio or video in a synchronized container. And then if someone plays pause, it will be paused for everyone and vice versa. Yeah, or you can also enable if this works or not. But this is what you can also do. And this is what I will try out next time. But I only want to give you the outlook here that this is also already on the horizon. Last but not least, as always, my resources for this demo. I have, it's not really 2 blog posts, but it was a series starting with the first blog post about the stage view one. And then at a later point of time, I was establishing this together with Fluid Framework. So take these 2 links for the moment, but there are other explanations also linked there. And then also for comparison reasons, I have 2 samples in the PnP Teams Dev Samples repository. The first one is the old school one with syncing the data in NPM cache. And the second one is the modern one with Fluid Framework. And last but not least, Microsoft documentation on the recently published Teams Live Share SDK. That's from my side.
Excellent. Thank you, Marcus. Really, really cool stuff and really cool to walk through the capabilities and how it was implemented. That Fluid framework is actually really hard to understand and hard to grasp how the systems are working. So it's really great to have that. Now, Marcus, if you don't mind, please copy the links which you had on the slides to the chat so that people can access those already at this point. But
yeah,
other than that, really, really cool stuff. Thank you, Marcus, on that. Now, just a recap on the following steps. The recording will be available within 24 hours at the Microsoft 365 YouTube channel and aka.ms M365 videos. We also will release a blog post recording a summary blog post, which will have all of the links and everything else which we have on the calls and always mention at the PnP blog. So just making sure that you are aware of those. But the raw recording or the recording is in the M365 videos channel. Follow us on Twitter to get notified when there's a new assets and resources available. And the next Microsoft 365 and Power Platform General Development Call is on October 13th at 7 a.m. Pacific time. And then next Thursday, we'll have the Viva Connection and SharePoint Framework call. If you're looking into downloading any of these call invites, go to the aka.ms M365 calls. From there, you can see all of the different calls which are available, and you can pick and choose which you want to actually join. That's it for now. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Have a great rest of the week. Stay safe, and we'll be definitely in touch. Thanks, everybody. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.